I'm very, very sorry to stop the conversation, which is obviously very robust, but I have extremely strict orders to start this at 12:15. And so for the record, I am listening. My name is Ann Swanson. I'm the executive director of the Chesapeake Bay Commission, which is a tri-state legislative authority made up of House and Senate members from 3 states, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. And it is particularly my honor to moderate this short session, this luncheon session. And the reason is because its topic is of such critical value to all of us. And this small piece of the program is really trying to just wet your whistle on the opportunities that may be before us that deal with innovation. And sometimes in the environmental community, innovation can be one of those words like flexibility, where you're not sure what what it means when you see it. But what we want to do is we want to talk about real innovation. We want to talk about moments when the business community, the government community, the private sector, the private citizens can come together and gather around something that truly can change the pollution stream going into Chesapeake Bay. And to understand just how important this is, I want all of you to remember the days of the phosphate detergent ban. With the phosphate detergent ban, it wasn't until some innovative chemists figured out an alternative surfactant, that's the thing that floats the dirt to the surface of the water so the washing machine can spin it out of your clothes. Until they figured out an alternative to phosphorus, the phosphorus had to be there. And once they figured that out, then the environmental community could gather around that innovation and say, get it out of Tide, get it out of Cheer, get it out of all those products, which over time we did. And it ended up being one of the largest single reductions in the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed for phosphorus, major. Later on, phytase, look at phytase. Basically, the Netherlands started it, amazingly innovative product. You give it to livestock, and basically they're better able to absorb nutrients, therefore they produce less manure, and the manure has less nitrogen in it. It's a fantastic opportunity, and phosphorus, so it's a fantastic opportunity to reduce nutrients while not upsetting the business model that basically businesses make money. And so here today, we're going to be talking about 2 different projects that demonstrate that kind of innovation. One is from Scott's Miracle-Gro. So many of you, when you go to the hardware store, are familiar with that. And the other has to do with taking a commodity that we have a lot of, manure, and turning it into the richness of energy. And so my job is to introduce each of the speakers. After that, we'll also then hear from Doug Sigland, my colleague at the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, who will introduce Congressman Glenn Thompson, who could play a very significant future role in our agriculture/water world. So first, the first speaker is Chris Wible. I always remember it, just remember Bible, and then you've got his name right, Wible. And he's the Director of Environmental Stewardship at the Scott's Miracle-Gro company. Scott's, for any of you who don't realize it, is the largest do-it-yourself lawn and garden products company. So obviously, if you can forge a working relationship with them to improve the labeling on the bag, the content in the bag, the application guidelines, etc., you can have a real win. As last I recall, they had about 80% or so of the market in the region, along with Lebanon seaboard. So he also, for those of you know, Scott's has about 50% of the market for Do It For Me. So those are those commercial applicators. There are many, many brands that you may be familiar with, obviously Miracle-Gro or Hyponex, but don't forget things like Ortho or even Scott's Wild Bird Seed. And of course, then there's all the enriched soil products that actually have nutrients in them. So think about all of those and think about the potential stewardship that could come as Scott's works with us in the region to take phosphorus, and I'm extremely proud to say that now they are willing to take to address the nitrogen issue associated with their products. So without further ado, Chris Wible.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Ann. What a difference a year makes. I attended this conference last year, and the most common question I got was, are you at the right conference? This year, I think thanks to Anthony and his inspiring talk about partnerships and public-private partnerships, the most common question I've gotten this year is, do you have a business card? So it's a welcome change. For those of you who do not know us, we are a 142-year-old company. You don't stay in business that long by resisting change and not being innovative. We strive to be an innovative and environmentally conscious company that helps more and more people connect with nature and enjoy the benefits of nature through sustainable care of their gardens, their landscapes, and their lawns. And to that end, we engage and collaborate with government organizations, academia, and environmental stakeholder groups to identify actions, both short-term and long-term, that we can take to meet those objectives. We understand, we look at our products, our raw materials, our operations, and our products, and we understand that our largest impact and a place that we need to focus most of our energy is on those life cycle and the use of our products. We also understand the impacts and the relative contribution that our products make to water quality and specifically the Chesapeake Bay region in relation to wastewater, septic, stormwater, agriculture, etc. But we want to be part of the solution, and we want to partner and drive change. This slide is the 2006 Memorandum of Understanding that we executed with the Chesapeake Bay states and headwater states in 2006. And the goal was a 50% reduction in lawn fertilizer products by 2010. This has been a highly successful public-private partnership. We really hit the ball out of the park on this one. To date, we've reduced phosphorus in lawn maintenance products by over 80%. We've committed to being phosphorus-free in all lawn maintenance products by 2012. The only products that will contain phosphorus will be those organic products where the phosphorus is naturally occurring and can't be removed, although we'll dilute that with other ingredients. Or if you have a soil deficiency or specifically need phosphorus, those will be the times that phosphorus will be used. Now, we weren't able to just do this in isolation. I think of it and talk about it like a three-legged stool. You couldn't just remove phosphorus, otherwise you would eventually, you would get turf thinning, you get increased runoff, erosion, and you would exacerbate water quality issues. So we had to do other things. One was introduce soil testing, make soil testing readily available to homeowners. So we did that. And also cultural practices, convincing consumers to recycle their grass clippings. So you're recycling that phosphorus rather than harvesting it and taking it out of the system and then creating the need to add additional phosphorus. We had to do those three things in coordination to make this successful, and that's what's going to enable us to go phosphorus-free by 2012. And as Ann said, we're also addressing nitrogen and how do we help contribute to and solve the nitrogen issues facing the Bay. A key piece, an outcome of the MOU and the partnership was also increased consumer education and outreach. In the stormwater session yesterday, someone made a very intuitive comment, and I think it makes a lot of sense as we move forward to phase 2 WIPs and we get really down into the local level, the statement was, how do I as a homeowner know what I'm supposed to do? Who's telling me what I should do on my individual property and how I can help protect water quality, whether I'm in an existing neighborhood or a new development, whether I fertilize my lawn or don't, or whether I have a lawn or a garden. You know, vegetation management is very big. Leaves in grass clippings in the street that get swept into our storm drains. If you mow your lawn and blow grass clippings out on the street, they have nitrogen and phosphorus in them. So those are things that we need to address and talk to homeowners. The MOU also drove innovation, as Ann stated, in regards to applicators. The photo up there is what we call an edge guard spreader. It has a deflector shield on the side that, when deployed, prevents product from impacting hard surfaces. So driveways, streets, sidewalks, where the product can then be flushed to surface waters, that prevents that application. And now that is now standard on all rotary broadcast spreaders. And we didn't stop there. We're continuing to innovate. This is a test market that we're doing now with a spreader we call Snap. The consumer never even opens the bag. You don't set the spreader setting. The bottom of the bag has a fitment that you snap it on the spreader, and it automatically sets the application rate. Whenever the consumer is done with that, applying the product, they take the bag off, hang it up in the garage, and save it for next season. So you eliminate any potential for spills, misapplication, etc. So it's innovation driving change. Our research and development team works with universities across the country looking at new and improved varieties of grasses that require less inputs, that are more heat and drought tolerant, that grow deeper roots, require less mowing, and has a significant or an added benefit that we can use this to mitigate some of the impervious surfaces that we have and the stormwater runoff that results. In the Chesapeake Bay watershed, in the urban environments, over 40% of the land area is impervious. We need more porous surfaces that can capture and absorb that rainfall. And with improved varieties and techniques, we can help convert some of that hardscape into porous surfaces. So these are all great things. These are all good innovations that make a difference and can make incremental change. But we also want to participate in other areas where we can help move the needle even further. And one area that we're working in is in partnership with large dairy operations, where many operations generate a significant amount of soluble nutrients that are applied to the soil in the form of manure. And we can turn that into a value stream and really turn a waste into a value-added product or products, enabling those farmers to more sustainably manage those manure streams. The primary outputs are energy and heat, but what we're interested in, that little yellow box at the bottom, it's the fiber. A dairy cow generates about 20 pounds of fiber a day. And when processed, that fiber has can be made into a high-quality horticultural growing media with characteristics that are very similar to peat moss, sphagnum peat. We can use that in potting soils, potting mixes, other materials for home gardeners. We have about 30 growing media facilities around the country. We currently recycle over 5 billion pounds of green waste each year and turn it into potting soils and potting mixes. We can essentially take all this fiber that dairy farmers generate and use it in those products. So we're trying to turn every aspect of that manure into a value-added stream, helping incent the farmer to invest in this type of technology. So as Nicholas said yesterday, partnerships are very important and can generate great results. I think one of the easiest ways to look at it is just the different constituencies. And if we partner, we can both broaden our reach of who we are able to talk to and who we can get that message out to and who we can change behavior and make them help contribute to protection of water quality, and help with Chesapeake Bay. We have a booth or an exhibit table that has some more information on this dairy digester. We also have some information on the Chesapeake Bay MOU and a lot of those outcomes that resulted, as well as a draft consumer outreach piece that we're working on, trying to drive and educate consumers on those sustainable practices that I mentioned. We're doing this in collaboration with the Soil and Water Conservation District in Ohio, and trying to turn this into an education program that they can drive throughout their urban communities. So for those of you who do have my business card already, I look forward to talking with you. And for those of you who don't have it yet, please stop me in the hall or stop by our exhibit table, and we can discuss ways that we can be better partners, and we can all help make a difference and protect the bay. Thank you.
As we transition to our next speaker, let me just mention that the Chesapeake Bay Commission, really in response to the whips in all 3 states, have begun to really look at, well, what can we do? What can we do this year? What can we do next year to basically tackle sources of pollution that we haven't yet tackled, and opportunities, I should say. So you will be seeing lawn care legislation coming out of the gate. There will be legislation in all 3 states. I know that the members of our commission are going to carry it in at least 2, and there's interest, obviously, in having a region-wide bill, something that over time all 6 states in the watershed would establish the same standards, because obviously it'll be able then for us to even spread the word. I look at it almost like the trash legislation, where there isn't a Gestapo telling me that I can't drop a gum wrapper, but I know better than to drop a gum wrapper, and I know to put it in the trash can. And hopefully, as this legislation moves through, the homeowners in the region that do choose turf, which happens to be more acreage than either corn or pasture, and combined, and so the people who are choosing turf are using it as a crop that can not only manage that runoff, but also never forget the nitrogen that's coming from the atmosphere. And if it's landing on that turf, you want that turf to be able to absorb it. So we're working on that. The other thing that we always seem to be working on is the question of manure. And right now in the watershed, if you just look at the gross EPA pie charts, you basically see that about 22% of the nutrient load, nitrogen load, is coming from our waste treatment plants. Well, what you'll also see is that same wedge of the pie makes up manure. So manure is a very major part, because obviously if you combine those 2 sources, 40% of the total load is a lot of the load, and you can begin to really see changes to the environment if you were able to adequately address them. Well, the next speaker, Pat Thompson from EnergyWorks, that's based in Annapolis, is going to show you an extraordinary opportunity for innovation, and one that I hope replicates itself time and time again in the region. Pat has an undergraduate degree from the U.S. Naval Academy, so for those of you who are from Annapolis, that should hit home. And of course, also studied at the University of Michigan and has an MBA in California. The reason that I just mentioned that is because you're talking to businessmen, you're talking to men who understand the markets, understand business plans, and those can be allies to the environmental community, because our training is often very, very different. I know I, for one, am trained as an ecologist and a forester, so that kind of partnership is really key. Well, Pat has worked for 25 years in power and cogeneration, and he has worked with energy efficiency and renewable energy technologies, wind, solar, biomass, and of late has come to explore the possibility of transforming manure to energy. Now, the one thing I want to mention here before I turn the program over to him is this. As an environmental community, you're going to find yourself, if you like this idea, you're going to find yourself working on laws that seem a little foreign to you. For example, of late, we've worked on laws for net metering, for example, and we've been able to get it through in Pennsylvania. Well, net metering is not something I went to graduate school for. You know, I didn't know I would know anything about it, but it turns out that a lot of legislation like that helps make a business-friendly environment for this type of innovation. So I would encourage you to listen carefully to the ideas here and carefully to the needs for how to make this kind of program work. What he is going to tell you, and I'm going to say it now so that you're sure to remember it because you'll hear it twice, is he's dealing with a £1 million reduction here. He's dealing with a £1 million opportunity. There are very few of those watershed-wide. So with that, Pat Thompson.
I'd like to thank Ann and the Chesapeake Bay Commission for all the collaboration and support we've had from them. Also, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, members of staff have always been supportive. We've consulted with them and checked in with them and informed them of progress as we've worked through this. And also the Keith Campbell Foundation has been very supportive. I can't thank the different members of the Pennsylvania government for working with us the way they have as true partners over the past 4 years as we've worked on this problem. We've had tremendous support from the Agricultural Department, from the Department of Environmental Protection, and the financing area from the Department of Community and Economic Development. All of those departments in Pennsylvania played a major role in making this project possible. What I'd like to share with you today is a preview of one of Pennsylvania's £1 million project. Not sure how to do the change. There we go. This project was certified last year. What a difference a year makes. I was telling people that I met here that we were hoping to get nutrient credit certification in Pennsylvania. We got that in February. And we are now the largest credit generator ever certified in Pennsylvania. And that's partly because we're working with the largest, one of the largest CAFOs in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the 4th largest egg producing state in the United States. The farm complex that we're working with has 20%. Closer. The farm we're working with has 20% of the egg production in the entire state, and that comes from 5 million birds. We're proud of the fact that, unlike some of the other renewable energy technologies that are manufactured, use technologies manufactured primarily overseas, we're placing a priority on using domestic-built equipment. In fact, the core technology for gasification is being built by a Pennsylvania company with major components built in Maryland. This project demonstrates the feasibility and the effectiveness of infrastructure for ecosystem services. This is an overview of the project. It will be a fully enclosed structure. All the processes are located inside a building that is below atmospheric pressure. So all leakage goes into the building and everything coming out is filtered. The key characteristics are listed here. It will process on average 240 tons of manure a day. It will produce about 3.5 megawatts of electricity. It will produce over almost 25,000 renewable energy credits a year. It will produce almost 40,000 tons of CO2 equivalent greenhouse gas reductions. And we will recycle over 12,000 tons of ash byproduct a year. These are minerals that are contained in the manure. We will produce over 1 million pounds of nitrogen nutrient trading credits and about 53,000 phosphorus trading credits in Pennsylvania. The basic concept is very simple. Unlike traditional agricultural practices where manure is allowed to sit and wait for nature to take its course, we try to deal with it in real time. So we're collecting manure from all of the storage houses associated with this 5 million bird complex on a daily basis. And in the process, we're eliminating all of the decomposition, the natural decomposition that takes place in manure storage houses, which in itself causes emissions of over 1 million pounds, about 1.4 million pounds of nitrogen per year from a farm this size. That's even before it's placed on the land for land application. And we have continuous operation. This is basically approached as an industrial process. Gasification, when the manure comes into our facility, it has 3 basic components. It has moisture, it has organic solids, and it has minerals. The moisture is evaporated off. The organic solids are transformed from a solid into a gaseous material. The gas then is a fuel that can be burned to create heat to make electricity. And what you're left with is the ash byproduct. In the process of the gasification, essentially all of the nitrogen is converted from various organic and inorganic forms into a benign nitrogen gas, 80% of what we're breathing. After the water and the organic solids are removed, you're left with the bottom ash. And almost 100% of the phosphorus is captured in that bottom ash. In another key part of our concept, going back to Verna's question that I've heard her ask twice now about monitoring and verifying what's really being done here, is we're using state-of-the-art technology to monitor the nitrogen and phosphorus mass flow through our process in real time. And this shows the basic idea. We measure all the phosphorus and nitrogen coming into the facility in the biomass deliveries, and we measure everything that's coming out of the facility. We measure what's contained in the ash byproduct. We measure, we track where the ash byproduct goes. We measure everything that comes out of the stack. If there's nitrogen in the form of NOx coming out of the stack, that is subtracted from the credits that we're earning. That's part of our credit certification process. The use of the ash is one of 2 pathways. One is as a fertilizer product. It has a good content of phosphorus and potassium, and they have good solubility, so they are attractive fertilizer products. And of course, the volume compared to the manure coming in is much smaller, and this is a dry, odorless material that can be stored and handled in a very convenient way and cost-effective way to take it where it's needed. The second use is as an animal feed supplement. And you can't just burn this stuff and expect to get something that has high value at the end as a byproduct. You have to very carefully control the temperatures, the residence times, and so forth in order to maintain the purity and the solubility and avoid the creation of undesirable compounds. We are initiating now an FDA approval process, certification process, to be able to recycle the ash as an animal feed supplement. So that's my favorite end result, is to send this back where it came from. As we monitor the process, it automatically feeds into our data management system, and we generate the documentation that can trace the credits back to the biomass delivery that we receive. This quickly shows the total evolution of manure coming in and nitrogen, phosphorus coming in to our facility on an annual basis. On an annual basis, there are about 6 million pounds of nitrogen coming in and a little over 3 million pounds of phosphorus. We remove about 93.5% of the nitrogen and break it down, transform it into N2 gas, non-polluting. We capture almost 100% of the phosphorus, as I've stated. Going through the Pennsylvania certification program, there were many, many reductions they made to those values. So even though we're keeping them out of the environment, we're not earning credit for all those. So what you see at the second to the bottom line there is we get credit, or the credits we get. It's something like 17% of the nitrogen that we remove, we actually earn credit for. And in the case of phosphorus, it's a much lower number than that. But still, these numbers translate to very significant reductions in terms of Pennsylvania's goal. The annual reductions from this facility will equate to about 3.5% of Pennsylvania's total goal for reduction between now and 2025 in the case of nitrogen, and over almost 4.5% in the case of phosphorus. Overall, this facility is more than a renewable energy facility. This is fundamentally an environmental and ecosystem services facility. There are environmental quality benefits, public health and safety benefits, and some of the need for these benefits was highlighted during the well-known egg recall last summer. By eliminating the manure storage, we eliminate a lot of those kinds of problems. Of course, recycling the minerals and generating renewable energy are in the vein of resource conservation. There are policies needed to promote, I should say, private infrastructure ecosystem services like this. In the area of manure to energy, much more can be done to enhance the revenue potential to make these projects viable. In the case of water quality trading, there's a huge need for expanding the market beyond Pennsylvania into a regional market. Frankly, the Pennsylvania market is taking off slowly. We're hoping that it'll accelerate now that the TMDL is issued, but still, it's hard for the Pennsylvania market to absorb 1 million pounds of credits at this stage. So making it a multi-state market will be a great benefit. There are also incentives that can be put in place to promote the recycling of nutrients. Something equivalent to a renewable portfolio standard could be applied to nutrients used in animal feeding or in fertilizer. So my closing statement is that it should be recognized that the technologies are here. They're available. The results from these technology solutions are predictable, they're long-term, and they're very cost-effective. These technologies also contribute to sustainable agriculture. Many people don't like to use that term in conjunction with CAFOs, but there are strong arguments that this is a form of sustainable agriculture. These kinds of projects and solutions will create regional jobs and benefit the regional economy. But the policies that are needed to drive the markets, create the markets for these projects, are needed on a regional basis. What we've encountered is almost universal support for private market-based solutions for this type of problem. The thing we've also learned is that you cannot have market-based solutions until you have a market. So there's a lot of work to be done there. Thank you.